Anybody on? One way.
Okay, it looks like we are live in the house.
How's it going, Mark?
Good, man. Good. Okay, we are live. We're live. So let's kick that off.
So what have you been working on this week?
Man, what a week I've had.
Yeah?
Whew, just finished a big chunk of work for Microsoft.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was a project that's been ongoing for a while. So got that out, got that on the road, done and dusted. And now, and today I delivered my last, just literally an hour or so ago, my final cohort 6 of my 90-day mentoring challenge.
Yeah, so that last batch is done.
So I've got to do it again tonight for the other time zone. But then, yeah, then it's all one-on-one. Do it yourself, D365. Welcome to the show.
When are you going to do your next one, or are you going to take a break on it?
Oh, I do them once a year.
Oh, okay.
So it won't be till January next year. Will the next one go live again? So
yeah. Have a little breathing room.
Oh, yeah. As in, 3 months, that's a quarter, right? And it takes a heck of amount of time, as in of prep and stuff. Even though this is the 3rd year I've done it, it's a constant process of refining, improving, that type of thing.
Yeah.
I think there was 103 on it all up this year.
Wow.
Now make
a pretty decent 365 Saturday in Tampa, or not many? 3. What was it? PowerUp 365. Shit, I can't even keep track of these things now. It was a 365 PowerUp Saturday, which is the alternate event to the to Raz's, and that was a pretty decent event. Got to get your focus.
What do you mean it's the alternative to Raz? How does that work?
There's some alternative group out there creating Saturday events.
And what they call PowerUp, are they?
Yeah, 365 PowerUp Saturday.
It's got nothing to do with us, has it?
Huh? No. You started it and ran. But yeah, so it's a pretty good event. I think Scottish Summit's running under that same banner.
Mate, Scottish Summit this week is going to be epic, right? This weekend, I think it is.
Unbelievable. Yeah. That's gonna be pretty cool. I'd love to have been at that one. That's got to be the biggest of any of these Saturday events by far. And you got to give those guys credit. But I give shout out and credit to Beth Burrell, new MVP this year. Been in the channel a long time, but new MVP this year, and she's the one who really pulled together the whole Tampa event. Did an awesome job. It was a great event. My session was packed, but of course.
Your session was packed. What do you say?
My session was packed in the big room. I talked about that concept of down licensing, right? I've got my org on. I got a bunch of users on 365 Sales Enterprise, and I got a bunch of those users that aren't really using hardly any of it. And is there a way I can move them down to a cheaper license? Really bringing in that PowerApps story on top of an existing Dynamics instance.
Yeah.
So it seemed to be, whenever you drop out the possibility of $10, it gets a lot of attention. But then you got to throw a bunch of caveats on that. It's we had the one guy last week, I think, on our show complaining about the API limits on the $10. Well, it's $10 fucking dollars. It's not going to, it's a Volkswagen. It won't go as fast as a Ferrari.
I was going to say it's a Honda. It's not the not the Ford or the Ferrari, as you say.
Yeah. So one of the hot topics this week was customers starting to get the notification from Microsoft that team member enforcement begins on April 1st.
Yep.
Which scared the crap out of a whole bunch of customers because, and several of the MVPs had communicated back to Microsoft that the apps that are part of this are going to go GA on April 1st. You can't start enforcement the day the app goes GA. And Microsoft said, well, they'll be in preview, but some of these folks said, we got big customers that don't allow preview in their environment. So
yeah,
the first time they'll see the app is on April 1st. It can't be enforced on that day. So it looks like Microsoft has sent another email out to those same customers.
Yep.
And let me see if I can find it. But basically,
hey Ken, how are you? Ken's joined us.
Yeah. Here we go.
Yep.
So here's the new email. It says that they previously announced that license enforcement will be turned on starting April 1st. Blah, 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 blah. However, to facilitate a smooth transition, all existing customer organization instances, which will be impacted by this change, will be granted an additional grace period until June 30th.
Okay.
So all of you people that haven't done shit up until now can continue to not do shit until June 30th and freak out again. Because that's what happens. Nobody does a damn thing.
Yeah. Everyone's like, oh, good. We bought ourselves some time and forget about it.
Oh yeah, exactly. I already had a call from one of my customers yesterday. Hey, what do I need to do about this? And I said, you got some time. He's like, okay. And I know he's going to forget about it until that date pops up and he'll be all panicked, but
yeah.
So I had to, there's some interesting things about, did we talk about how they're doing that last week? I don't remember if we talked about the fact that they're making team member apps. So remind me in the chat, anybody, if I already talked about all this.
I don't remember this. What do you mean referring to?
So, and this is part of something that I talked with Matt Barber about a month ago when he was kind of running by some ideas about how they were going to handle technical enforcement. Like two levels of it, and we're going to be seeing the first phase is what they're going to do now. So on April 1st, and actually prior in the preview environments, you're going to see some new apps called Sales Team Member, Service Team Member, and Resource Hub for Team Member.
Yep.
Once enforcement is in place, or for any new customers, any user licensed with a team member license only will only be able to log into one of those three apps. They will not be able to log into any of the other first-party apps or any custom apps. Because team member, doesn't give you any Power Platform rights. So you're going to be funneled to one of those three apps as a team member is all you can use. So that's one level of enforcement mechanism that they've built. And this is also potentially down the road, not anytime soon, but down the road going to be the same framework that they're creating for their own stuff. They're talking about making available to ISVs. So down the road, these would be things we could potentially look at. There's also a limit of 15 custom. So these are customizable apps with a limit of 15 custom entities, and they're able to. Then they've been able to technically enforce that. So from a technical standpoint, if you've got a team member license, I can force you into one of these three apps. And at the app level, on these three apps, I can enforce that there can't be any more than 15 entities. They kind of moved the problem from one spot to another, because I could go into these new apps, customize them to add, for example, one of these entities that I'm not supposed to create. Like I don't think I can create accounts with the team member. I could add accounts to that app and go, create accounts, because that restriction is still paper, right? That's not technical. That's still paper. So they haven't solved the problem. They kind of shifted it a little bit, maybe minimized it a little bit. I think part of the goal is to make it uncomfortable enough for customers on that team member to do something else.
Okay.
So what else could they do? Now they could obviously upgrade to, enterprise, whatever, but they're not going to do that from that license. So we've already had some folks talking about, hey, how's this $10 app pass work? Would that be a solution to this problem? Well, the thing about a team member license is you've got read access to everything. Right? That's a right you have as a team member license, read access to everything, write access to a few things. And actually, Yuka had mentioned a point last week that, I have read access to everything, but you've limited my app to only 15 custom entities. So in a way, you're not giving me read access to everything, but I think Microsoft would probably say, oh yeah, you just pick what you want, but you can put anything in there. You can read anything, just only up to 15 things at a time.
Yeah.
So that would be the workaround there. But the rules are different for team member, right? First of all, we've got a locked app, even though it's customizable, and we've got different kind of rights. If I were to build a Power App instead to target that $10 app pass, I've got a different set of rights, right? I can't use restricted entities, which is not a concept with team member. I've got full read write though to stuff that isn't restricted, and we don't know what the hell's happening with the restricted list, which I know we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not an apples to oranges comparison to say, I'm going to move off this, say, $8 team member to a $10 pass. It'll be interesting to see how this actually shakes out when it lands. Between April and June will be an interesting time, because that's when we'll see the big team member users, the companies with lots of team members, start squawking. Personally, I think what they should have done was to build a team member app that is locked to rights that it has and not make it customizable. Maybe remove from the team member, from this cheap team member limited license, removes the ability to customize the app that it uses, and here's what it is. And, it comes with our stuff. But I don't know. We'll see. And I'm also hopeful, as I know are you and some of the other MVPs that have kind of banded together with this battle cry that restricted entities is not the way to protect your IP.
Yeah.
For your first party apps, it's just a fucking table. Come up with a better idea. So we'll see.
So has any of that, like that you've seen, because I've been off some of those channels for a bit, have you seen any of that type take traction, as in around release the tables? Because at the moment, the only workaround seems to be for me is that, let's say I wanted access for my app to inject data into an opportunity entity, I theoretically would need to buy one Dynamics 365 sales, enterprise or professional license, drop it in that tenant, therefore that table structure, etc. Let's say the admin drops that into the tenant.
No, you'd have to create it from there. You couldn't add it you can't add it to a CDS instance by
No. I know you can't add it to CDS. So let's say I'm architecting my system and I architect it in such a way that I put sales in from the get-go.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm going to run everybody on a $10 app in the organization. So one admin architects the environment with that up. So let's say I have 50 people running the Power App license, but they need to be able to put data into the opportunity. They're not going to work with opportunities. They just need to put data into that table.
Yep, multiplexing. That's multiplexing.
Why is it?
Yeah, it's a restricted entity that's only supposed to be accessed by a first-party license. Doesn't matter how you access it from the $10 app. If you have a workflow that goes back and copies over or anything like that, that's multiplexing, and you're not, you're out of the $10 license. Now, granted, that's still paper. That's a paper thing at this point, but yeah, that's multiplexing, and you can't do that. So there you go. That's a closed door. So your only other option, if you want to engage with an opportunity entity on a $10 license, is to
hang on. I thought we'd already discussed that they haven't said what those entities are last week.
So there's a list right now of restricted entities that is old. Charles said on my podcast.
Yeah, the list says don't listen to this list because it doesn't apply. That's what the doc article says.
Exactly. And Charles had said on my call with him on the podcast in September that they were going to be adding, I don't think opportunities is on it right now, but he said they were going to be adding some. And I said, like what? And he said, for example, opportunities probably, if you go back and listen to that. Mm-hmm. But here we are, almost March, and we haven't gotten any word about any of these restricted entities. My hope, and actually we've been talking to the teams, we've all been kind of emailing the teams, and it's been kind of quiet. I did get a response from somebody saying they're still working on it and hope to have something sorted out by the end of the year.
Okay.
So that's too long.
Explain for me this. What is a common data model? Right? Microsoft came to market with this concept of the common data model. That was, their words, open source.
So
right?
it's interesting because one of the things that, Smith Codio,
Yeah.
right? When he was asked one
Still
time
enrolled?
about,
Is he
he
still
was at,
enrolled?
no, but he's over on the accelerators.
Yeah,
But
I didn't think you were, that's what I was meaning, enroll. I didn't think he was in accelerators anymore.
I don't know where he is now, but when he was asked about the accelerators, about aren't you guys building IP
Yeah.
that's going to compete with our ISV, and he
Mhm.
said this is just a data model. There's no IP in a data model. It's just data model.
Correct.
Now we got Microsoft first-party teams laying a restricted tag on hunks of the data model, claiming that's IP. It's a fucking data model. It's a table in a database with attributes. Nothing I couldn't recreate. And now it's just a mess. Now it's just a mess. They definitely need to. Then that was just quick and easy, right? We're gonna do it with paper license, and paper license. We just say you can't use these entities because they're key to our first party apps, but they're just fucking tables. I mean, that's not the key.
So not key. They're so not key. Like,
no, I mean, you own
to build an opportunity or lead entity. What logic have either of those got? They have some mapping. They allow you to, lead will map to account, contact, and opportunity. Whoop-de-doo. That's easily replaceable.
Yeah, they got a qualify process. They got a an opportunity one process, which frankly are crap. I mean, we built in Rapid Start. We built an opportunity entity. Right? Yeah, we built an opportunity entity in Rapid Start that works way better than the one they've got. Just because so much of their processes and code from that stuff is just legacy. I mean, that stuff's been around for 15 years. Some of those ideas.
Right? So recently, it just broke down how many different ways can you create an opportunity in Office 365? In Dynamics 365 sales. So you can convert a lead entity, right? You can convert an activity like an email. You can go onto the contact record and create one. You can go into the account record and create one. Or you can go into the opportunity record and create new.
There's more than that. You could create an opportunity from a case record. You can create it from a phone call.
Yeah, well, I said activities, which
whole activity.
I said like email, but yeah.
Yeah, you can create it from a case entity too.
Yep. So okay, so you've got these parameters. What's the most intelligent one of all of them that, with the least amount of effort, gives you the biggest bang for buck? In other words, it fills out the opportunity most completely.
Creating it, in my opinion, creating it from the contact record.
Wrong.
Subgrid.
Creating it from a lead gives you the biggest point of referenceable data. Do you know why? Do you know why?
Yeah, because it's qualifying and creating the account, the contact, and the opportunity, pulling in account information and contact information and all the fields that are on the lead that you mapped over.
And campaign. So where did this opportunity absolutely originate from?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. The problem is...
I thought you were asking about in my Rapid Start, which we would do it from the contact entity, but go ahead.
So what, you've created it from the contact entity?
So we did a couple of things. You pointed out one of the challenges customers have with all of Dynamics is there's 7 different ways to do everything.
Yeah.
And depending on if you get, if you got 500 people in the organization and they're all doing it different ways, you get all kinds of different results. Yep. Training is complicated.
Yeah.
So we made
incomplete data, right?
Oh yeah. So, well, you get somebody might do the qualified lead. Somebody else might just go create one off an account. Someone else might create one right from the opportunity screen. So you get all kinds of different levels of information.
Yeah.
And in our Rapid Start, of course, we don't have a concept of leads. We ditched that. But we're forcing that you can only create a case or an opportunity from 2 places. And that's from the subgrid on the contact record or the subgrid on the account record. Because if you create the opportunity from the opportunity view, you've got to go make those connections and you might not. And now we've got these opportunities floating around out there. So we've eliminated 7 ways to create an opportunity down to 2. And we're trying to do that on a lot of stuff. We're working on one now that's going to sit on top of the Sales Pro SKU, which actually has all of the Microsoft logic. It's just a handicap SKU. And again, trying to do the same thing. A lot of work in the ribbon to just eliminate a shit ton of buttons in the ribbon that are stupid and just confuse people.
irrelevant. Yeah.
And get rid of the ability to create new. The other thing that we're forcing is all new records that are created with the quick create form.
Mm-hmm.
You can't launch the full form until after you've done at least a quick create. So when you're looking at an account list, you want to create a new one, it's going to slide in quick create, put in your information, save it. You can open it if you want to put on more, but this thing about launching full form records for all these things is just too onerous.
Mm-mm-mm.
And now we got a new one, right? The dialogues coming, right? There's been some talk about this last week, this idea that I can now, because I guess one of the complaints customers have had is, say I'm looking at an account record and I click on the contact, it's going to replace that form with the contact form. And it's funny because you remember, what was it, 2011, where everything was pop-ups and people got complained about having so many windows open after a little while. And then part of this whole unified was no more multiple windows opening.
Yeah.
Apparently some people like multiple windows opening. So now we're getting a new method, which is you could set, for example, on the account form that the links to contacts, instead of opening the contact record, will pop up that contact record in a modal. And you could, determine the size, location of that modal. And it's, I don't know if it's a custom form or if it's just a standard form, but you do your edits in that mobile, close it, and you're still sitting on the contact record or account record you started from, as an example. So that's something some of the folks I know have been playing around with as well. So some cool stuff there. Some cool stuff there.
True. One of the things I've been thinking about is, oops, sorry, I'm just getting a call on my phone. Let's just mute that. And I just made some notes before the show started, is around the program that Microsoft has for ISVs now, right? Which is, it's Connect,
ISV Connect.
Yeah.
ISV Connect.
So what progress has happened since about March last year when the program was first announced to now? The last big activity or event was around Ignite time, right? Which they started rolling it out and they were going to clean up the App Store, etc. What else has happened, if anything? Has there been some backtracking on certain things in your mind? Like, one of the things that I'm seeing is that there was this thing that there was going to be no side loading, right? That you couldn't side load solutions or ISV apps, that it would have to go through AppSource. Has that softened in your mind?
They dropped that, and that, I mean, that never actually came to fruition. It was something that was discussed.
It was one of the things that they were saying, you have to be in there or bang, you're going to get cut out long term.
Exactly. It was part of the shock and awe of first launching the revenue share model was you're going to be forced to go through AppSource at some point once we got AppSource working well, and you won't be able to side load. Mm-hmm. And they since backed off of that and decided, no, we're going to continue to allow side loading.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is, but we don't want you to give up on AppSource and these things. You still have to pay the fee, right? It doesn't get you out of paying the revenue share whether you side load or not. So if you're going to pay the fee anyway, then why don't you take advantage of all of these benefits that we're going to stack up over here on the other side of going through AppSource? And some of that is going to be things like this enforcement that I just talked about, making that sort of stuff available to ISVs to be able to lock our customers with if they buy a license from us, they can only go to our app, different things like that. It'll be commerce.
Okay.
It will be.
It's taken 3 years for them to build the engineering that protects their own licenses.
I don't think it took them 3 years. I don't think they started 3 years ago.
No, they thought about it.
It took them 3 years to stop talking about it, but
they've thought about it with the ISV channel as well. Doesn't mean they have anywhere near close to tooling it.
I think this whole technical enforcement of team members, the actual technical work that was done, I think all that's been done in the last 6 months.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, it doesn't mean that'll automatically translate to app A, B, and C run by an ISV.
No, and like I said earlier, it's going to be. They even said it'll be.
It's a nice thought. It's a nice conversation that they might have done it, but I do not see that. And why I say this, app source hasn't changed in 12 months, apart from one more search criteria, which is the Power App search criteria. Otherwise,
it essentially hasn't changed. It hasn't changed since it launched. They recently redid some of the back end to move it into Partner Center.
Totally, yep.
But I mean, that was just a new UI on all the same stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same stuff underneath. It's all UI. The biggest challenges that AppSource front end has, of course, as we both talked about, the UI kind of sucks, but it's discoverability. The search algorithm is completely fucked and doesn't do anything. And you know, if you just can't really be found in there very easily. And a customer types a couple searches and gets stuff that's not relevant, he just quits.
Yeah.
So it does feel like they're dropping that, like that purge is happening though, because I'm seeing fewer and fewer apps every time I log in there. So they're purging apps at a faster rate than new ones are coming on. So the number of apps is decreasing week by week, which is good. I mean, they're getting rid of all the junk. But a friend of ours that we both know has some apps in there that he has not recertified, knows they don't work, and they're still in there. So they haven't gotten through everybody yet.
Yeah.
But they will. He'll be kind of a canary for us to see how far they get once his are out.
Totally. So here's the other challenge I have. Let's say that I build a piece of software and I build that on Azure, and it's designed to run all aspects of a mining company. Right. I've got a lot of IP in there. I've got schedules and reports and the way we process the mining operation, etc., as part of that.
Yeah.
But I also have a group of customers that the mine supplies to, and I decide to use CDS to store that customer data. Right? I'm not going to use the CDS interface. I don't need any apps, PowerApps, or anything like that. I'm just going to use that via APIs into running my mining operation. I want that nice common data model to store that data, because who knows what it could be used for in the future. So I have an app that uses CDS.
I mean, so first of all, you'd had to replicate your data model on the CDS, right? You don't care. You don't care about the app. You just want the
I just want the link. I want the link through the APIs to my other software. That's all, like, it's just referencing, you know,
you build a custom connector, right?
Yep. And so all the access that my mine staff have to the software is via a custom user interface that I've got running on Azure.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not, but I am using some of that kind of data model structure of accounts and contacts.
And the goal here would be to just have a single license for your to spin up the CDS instance in the first place, or environment.
So we could say the $10 SKU for that. That's not my question. Here's my question. Do I pay Microsoft 10% of my entire business operations, that the product, that software I sell? Or do they get 10% of what's happening off that connector into CDS?
So this would be the same question that somebody like, for example, DocuSign might have. Right?
Yeah.
DocuSign,
yeah.
Perfect. They provide a free app to connect to Dynamics, but you pay DocuSign directly thousands of dollars for the DocuSign service that you're subscribed to. And because of this little app that allows you to use it from Dynamics, is Microsoft expecting 10% of DocuSign's revenue from the customer?
Yeah.
To be honest, that came up early in these conversations. I'm not in that position, so I don't know what ultimately the answer for that was. It's different than, for example, a Click Dimensions, who's running their whole thing on Dynamics, than say DocuSign, which really is their own service external, which is what you just described, building your own external service.
Yeah. So I'm engaged with a customer, and guess what Microsoft's asking for?
10% of all that revenue?
Their entire business operation.
That's pretty bold. I would say there's a customer who's probably not going to engage with the platform.
But like, how ridiculous is that? Hang on, we're gonna sell you all the tools to do your job, and then after we've sold you the tools to do the job, like the Azure, the compute, all that kind of stuff, you got all the infrastructure. We now want to look at your bottom line and take a cut of that as well.
Is this an existing ISV that's successful in the market with big customers, or is this a new ISV?
Successful ISV with a lot of money.
I mean, obviously they're just not going to, I mean, no more than I'm sure DocuSign didn't say, okay, fine. Every time somebody, one of our customers, our mutual customers decides to install our connector, we'll give you 10% of all the money they pay us. They'll just shut down the fucking connector. Say, I don't care. No, I'm not doing that.
But like, isn't there a reasonable ground? What's the logic in that? It's almost like foolhardy, pig-headed.
I don't know. That sounds like something we need to get Googs back on an episode and shake out with, but because I'm sure there's an answer. I mean, there's a ton of those kind of ISVs out there.
Yeah.
And this program is in place. So I know none of them have necessarily agreed to that kind of a thing,
So I've heard a whisper. Actually, let me ask you a question.
Is this where you try and trap me into saying something NDA?
No, this is trying to not let me do something that's NDA. How much money do you reckon's been self-reported on in the 10 and 20% levels? How much money do you reckon Microsoft's pulled in via it after like almost 9 months of the program being out?
I think, it's another one of those programs they launched with a piece of paper, right? You signed a piece of paper, but they don't have any mechanism to even ask for the money, much less know that you're sending it right now. I think that AppSource, they will build it in to AppSource in the future where they'll just scrape it once they got commerce there. They'll just scrape their share off, but they're a ways away from that. So right now it's self-reporting from everybody. And I'd be surprised if they've had any reports from anybody. I mean, I'm not paying anything until they ask me at least twice, right? And they haven't asked once. And I'm sure they haven't asked anybody else once either. I think they're floating the idea out there. They're getting, I mean, it's on paper, right? Technically, we're all committed. Obviously, they could bring a hammer down if they want and kick you off the platform if you don't pay. But that Microsoft has never been that harsh. They always end up giving the benefit of the doubt. I mean, look at all the ISV solutions and they're still broken, that they've given all this benefit just on purging them out. So I think Googs is like, I got to build my tools to be able to get that, because, self-report is no different than any paper license. People just don't do it. People just don't do it. So until they've got the tools and mechanisms in place in their organization, they'll move over who they move over. Going through AppSource, they'll automatically scrape their fee. That'll be fine. And then they'll go out.
Does. Like why are they introducing this team license or control? Don't everybody self-report on how they're using the licenses?
Yeah, exactly.
Works so effectively, like for the last 15 years.
Yeah, exactly. But the paper license, or frankly a contract, is useless, because unless you're ready to enforce it, and they haven't ever enforced anything. They could have gone to hundreds and hundreds of customers individually and done an audit. You remember the software asset management audits they used to do on stuff back in the day?
Yeah. I
mean, they could have introduced a program like that around Dynamics and run those audits on team licenses.
Yeah.
And identified a whole bunch of people in violation. They could have been hammering those customers that, hey, look, we're gonna turn off your service if you don't move these people to the right license or move their use down to fit in the license, one of the two. But they didn't do any of that. Yeah. And I don't foresee. I mean, even this it just hasn't been a priority. The priority has been we need to build features to catch up in areas and get ahead in areas than Salesforce. Mm-hmm. And now, of course, not just Salesforce, because Power Platform's competing with fucking everybody. We're competing with SAP, we're competing with OutSystems, we're competing with all the low-code platform. We're competing with every fucking buddy now. And I think, and every time they launch a new feature, they just created a new competitive space with a whole bunch of competitors again.
Yeah.
The the bot framework. Now all of a sudden we're competing with everybody out there that has bot platforms. We're just every time we turn around, we're competing with new people. Forms, boom, it just introduced competition to all the form companies out there. So
I mean,
they've got
RPA is another case in point, right? I just did the podcast this week with the PM of RPA, and I'm just like, yeah, you've just lined up a whole bunch of new competitors against you. It's like you're competing on all fronts, and therefore, like I saw a forms tool the other day. I was using it to sign up for something on somebody's website, and it was obviously a forms tool, not part of their website. You clicked the link, you could see the URL had their name in it, but it was a SaaS service that they're doing it.
Yeah.
The form experience was the slickest thing I've ever been on, right? So no scrolling form down a page. You had one question on screen. You completed it, whether typed in, selected. If you'd selected an option, it would slide away and the next question would be there. So there's no concept of next. Like, obviously it's next. This is the next one. Like, all that thinking, this form designer had got rid of and was like, how do we make forms really as enjoyable as possible, good experience for people? And I mean, Forms Pro and Forms is an amazing product and stuff, but once again, it's very
rudimentary compared. Yeah. I think Microsoft's strategy here is we're going to build a shit ton of half-assed versions of popular products, but they're all Microsoft. And we're going to focus more on them talking to each other and being an ecosystem that you join where, you can get a much cooler form out there, but it's not connected.
Yeah.
And Forms Pro, it's not as slick, it's not as cool, but it's connected. And I think that's the real story, is all this shit is connected.
But like, how much would it take to hire in a bunch of front-end designers that made this stuff just so freaking sexy that people would go, wow, doesn't look like. I go back to, why can't we make business software addictive? Like, just rather than just practical, not do away with practical, not do away with all the integrations and everything. With like that bit's nailed. But why don't we go, okay, how do we make it addictive that people cannot live without using this as part of their job function each day? Because it is just so freaking awesome.
So I'm an opinionated asshole, and as such, I frequently will get Microsoft, product groups will call me up and want to get my opinion on something because they know I'll give it.
Mm-hmm.
So Monday I had a call with the team in Israel that is building the new mobile apps.
Yep.
So today the mobile apps for Dynamics and model-driven PowerApps basically displays the website. It's a responsive website, and it shows that in a box. And lots of mobile app users that have used lots of different apps have said, this is not as cool as any other app on my fucking phone. It's funny because we used to make fun of these companies that just would upload an app, and all it was a link to display their website in like an iframe.
Yep.
This is only a minor step past that, really, of what they've done. I don't have any big issues with the. Just
a shim, right? There's nothing localized. It's just a shim. It's calling a web server and creating.
Yep. And the UCI is all responsive, so it's basically just showing the. I mean, when people have asked me what the mobile app looks like, I grab the corner of the screen and just shrink it down to about the size of a mobile, and there you go, response. That's what it looks like.
Yep.
So. I guess, and I don't know how this became such a high priority, but I guess lots of folks have said, this isn't cool. It doesn't look like a cool app. So they're in the process of building mobile apps, not based on UCI, actual apps for sales and service and something else, I guess. And so this was kind of looking at some of the mock-ups that they were putting together. But it was interesting because and I don't want to get into too many of the details because there was a lot of conversation around that, but the idea that they're kind of UI blind, and we need to get Jonas Sterling runs UX for biz applications. He's the guy who's responsible for fonts, colors, spaces,
Yeah.
what
What are you
it,
going
what
to
it
do?
looks
Come on
like.
podcast and tell him his kid's ugly?
Well,
Oh, well, the thing is, like, I've tried.
you know what? If you have an ugly kid, somebody needs to tell you why he's never getting picked to play. Why he's never getting picked at the dance. Somebody
But
needs to
I
tell
keep
you.
saying the people that built what's broken can't fix it.
Uh, well, he's head of that department. It's a pretty big department. I don't think he's the guy who's doing it. I think that he runs that department. I'm sure he's got people under him that maybe need to be replaced.
But someone's
you know what?
stuff. Someone's going, wow, that is awesome. And out of,
I don't think, frankly, much anything that Microsoft has a slick looking UI compared to what a startup would come out with.
Yeah.
Today, it's a Word. It's nothing slick about Word or anything that Microsoft produces. I don't think they've ever been known for a really cool UI.
Yeah.
That's not been their strong suit, and it's still not. And some startup with a couple of young guys that are really good at code and jQuery and JavaScript and stuff like that. All front end stuff could make something really slick. Of course, it's running on some little PHP back end or something, and not got the scalability or power. So it's just never been Microsoft's strong suit. And I don't think we'll ever see great, slick UIs coming out of them.
Why? They've modernized in so many other areas of the company.
They're content. You know what? I think they're content to, there's an opportunity to expand again, if their idea is once you buy into our ecosystem, you're more likely to buy other features we make available within that ecosystem that go outside.
Yeah.
So they look outside and see a bunch of these form solutions and say, let's build our own form solution. Boom, there you go. It's not great. It's not pretty. It looks just like everything Microsoft would build. Looks exactly like something Microsoft would build. But there's a whole bunch of customers now that went and canceled all those other form solutions that they were paying for because they don't talk to CDS.
Yeah.
And there's the reason right there. This one talks to CDS, and it's the only one that talks to CDS, and I'm all in on CDS. I think CDS is the key. I was talking to another one of the teams the other week about the enterprise customers PowerApps, and they were telling me that you can see how it moves through an enterprise where they start with PowerApps from the Office 365 side, building tons and tons of PowerApps, and we really want to get them doing more CDS apps. I've said, well, yeah, but first of all, they don't even know what CDS is.
Yeah.
They bought Office 365 and they see PowerApps in there and they think that is PowerApps. And yes, it is a PowerApps, but it is not all of PowerApps. They have no concept of model driven.
Mm-hmm.
And they're building applications on top of SharePoint lists, which for many applications, a Canvas app on a SharePoint list is perfectly fine. Even if you go look at SharePoint Online right now, there'll be a button on top of any list you've created that says create a Power App.
Yeah.
It will literally create a Canvas Power App for you within a couple of minutes with all the screens, with all the lists, with the ability to add, edit, and they made it very easy. And I'm sure they probably count that as there's another Power App that was built.
Yep.
Somebody pushing that button. But this massive growth of Power Apps from the Office side, and my concern is you got people that are trying to solve sophisticated challenges that should really be built on a relational database, which CDS is, that don't even know it exists, that are building Canvas apps on top of SharePoint.
Yeah.
It's like back when I first started with Microsoft, one of our biggest competitors in selling CRM was the SharePoint partners trying to talk the customers into building a CRM on SharePoint.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, why the fuck would you do that when Microsoft sells a CRM that is already a CRM? Why would you go build it on SharePoint, which wasn't designed to be a CRM? Why would you do that? But that's exactly what's happening now. You got Canvas.
Right? It's money. People stick with what they know. They promote what they know because that's their expertise. They're not going to turn around and promote something that they're not going to get paid for, that they're not going to get consulting services off or anything, right? It's human nature.
And the only people that have ever heard of CDS is those of us on the call, those of us in the space, customers have no fucking idea what we're talking about. Model driven, what is that? Canvas, what is that? I know what PowerApps are. We use them all the time, but I don't know what Canvas or model driven is. And I don't know what the CDS thing is you're talking about. None of them know what the fuck we're talking about, but they think they know PowerApps. That's a challenge. That's a challenge, especially if CDS is the future.
Ready for me to pivot?
Pivot.
Ryan Jones, Ryan Cunningham. Have you heard anything from these lads lately?
Not lately. The Ryans, no. Why?
I sent them both emails 2 weeks ago. I got nothing but crickets.
And your email was?
I sent the same email, very similar, to Siciliano and Charles Lamana.
Yeah.
Got response within the hour from both of them.
Yeah.
So I just wondered if, being that I got absolutely zero response, I could take, okay, they might be on holiday.
Might not like you.
I think I'm okay there. I don't think there's a risk there.
They might be slam busy with massive things that are happening.
Yeah, but I'd expect Charles would be too. But
I tell you, Charles is super responsive.
Massively, right?
He responds. I've never had him not respond to an email I sent within a day.
Yeah.
Ryan is one of those guys, when he sees you in person, he's all like, oh yeah, but yeah, send me an email tomorrow. We'll do that tomorrow. And then, he doesn't respond for like a week or something. So he's more, he appears like he would be more responsive in person than he actually is.
Yeah.
And I think, Ryan Jones is, he's too much of a hippie to worry about.
But let's talk about Jonesy's part of the business, because CDS, right? We've seen it be stabilized over the last 18 months, and it's become rock solid in that respect to all intents and purposes. What do you reckon that they're going to come out with?
What do you mean come out with? Next?
Well, I kind of...
CDS 3?
Stuck with me. I asked him, what are you going to do at a database level to support AI? There must be some new innovative ways. And he just went, can't say anything.
Yeah, but when we've talked to him in person before, sometimes he'll I can't really talk about that yet. And then 10 minutes later,
out, right?
10 minutes later, he starts spilling his guts to us, So yeah, it's probably one of those. His first reaction is, I can't talk about that yet.
But
come over here in the corner and I can tell you.
Hang on, could be coronavirus.
There you go.
We weren't going to bring that up. Steve and I had a discussion before today and before we went live today, and said, we're not going to discuss the virus.
Yeah, we can't do anything about it.
We can't. Exactly.
Our opinions are irrelevant on that. Our opinions are valid in the stuff we talk about, but they're not really relevant in the world of viruses. Nobody has any questions today. That's interesting.
No, very quiet on the question front. We've got 12 minutes to go. But yeah, I was hoping someone would drop me a link on where it talks about Canvas and model-driven apps running on a single mobile application. It's in the 2020 release notes, wave 1.
So they're doing a couple things on that front, right? They're converging the player. And essentially, you talked about a shim before. It's kind of what I think this is going to be. The new PowerApps player will show you a list of your PowerApps, both Canvas and model, that you have access to in a list. And then when you click on it, it'll open that app in that app's player.
Yeah.
It took the Canvas app player and the model player. I think those still exist. They just put another player in front of them that really just forks you off depending on which one you pick. More convenient, I guess. Customer doesn't have to go hunt around. It can go to that one app to launch them.
Do you think that we're going to see the maker experience merge this year?
Well, we know we are. We know they're going to be moving Canvas.
No would indicate that you'd seen it already done. Not that it's roadmapped.
No, I think that's been talked about and roadmapped out there publicly.
But do you think it's going to happen this year? that there's going to be a single maker experience for interface?
I think it'll be just like the single player experience. It will be two separate things behind with this thing in front that gives the illusion that they're together, like the player, where you can do mobile or canvas from a, they didn't rebuild everything. They just put something in front of it.
Yeah.
They're going to do it maybe a little opposite. I think what you're going to have is maybe a concept of something like an app page. Instead of building a form, you'll build a page, and on that page, you can drag on a form, a model-driven form. You can drag on a Canvas app. Mm-hmm. But then to go edit that form and edit that Canvas app, I think you'll probably be using the traditional experience.
Yeah.
They get a little fast and loose sometimes when they talk about like things merging. It's not an actual merge. That's you would start building either of those things from the same place, maybe. But I mean, those two technologies, I mean, the Canvas app started as, on the Office side off SharePoint, right? I mean, that's a completely different, everything about that is different than model driven. And model driven is legacy. I mean, Canvas is new. It's new technology. Model driven is all legacy technology from however long XRM's been around, right?
But as part of that discussion then, are we going to see the controls that make up Canvas apps available as building blocks of model-driven apps? Or building blocks in it, not rather than of?
Well, we got that now with embedding Canvas apps, right?
Yeah, but you've got to embed the whole app. What about actually at a component level?
I mean, that was kind of where I was thinking they were going to go with this idea of the page, is that model driven is a component and Canvas is a component. Mm-hmm. Potentially Power Components are components as well. Yeah. So think about, and I don't know if you've seen any of these like WordPress page builders.
Yep.
That kind of an idea where I'm going to drag in a slider on this page, and then I'm going to create a new area, and I'm going to drag in
data and
I'm going to drag in a contact form on another area. And so it's like a page builder kind of a thinking. I think that's kind of where they're thinking about going, is more of a page builder type of an experience.
Gotcha. Well,
where a model-driven form would be a component that you could drag onto the page, a Canvas app would be a component you could drag on the page.
Yeah. Well, this is our second to last live stream, right? Before Barcelona.
We may still do one that Wednesday, right? Depending on schedules and timing.
Barcelona.
I don't know what the time
time zone difference and stuff. That is something we'll have to check out.
What is there a big difference in your time zone to Barcelona?
I haven't looked. It's definitely forward time wise, but I haven't checked. Has anyone, in fact, the good thing to do would be to right now validate that, because the time zone will match.
I'm doing it right now.
Is anyone that's on the call today, is anyone going to Barcelona, joining us in Barcelona, or the MVP Summit in Seattle in the following week? Any take?
By the way, it looks like there is an 11-hour time difference between you and Barcelona.
Is that right?
That doesn't seem right. Are you standard time right now?
See, that's the hard thing. You're going across 3 time zones.
Or are you?
Easier for me to say time of Barcelona now. It's 10:54 p.m. So it would be at 9 p.m. on Tuesday night in Spain that we would need to do it.
Yeah.
There we go. That's quite handy.
So there's a possibility. There's a possibility then.
What is that? Are you talking about MWC? That was the Mobile World Conference, right?
Yeah,
no, that was cancelled. But in Barcelona, there's the Dynamic
Summit.
Communities.
UG Summit and Extreme, whatever the hell they're calling it, Extreme 365 on the front of UG Summit. What they did where did they do that here last year? Not Phoenix.
Orlando.
Yeah, that one. Yep. Yeah, the Power Platform Saturday on March 21st in Seattle. They're taking advantage of the fact they got all its MVPs out there.
Yeah.
But they actually let everybody know a little too late because I heard them asking about speakers, and there'll be plenty of good speakers there, but a whole bunch of folks were like, "Damn, I wish I'd have known because I already booked my flight home on Saturday morning, and I can't get a refund." So it would have been, maybe that was a little hastily put together. And that is Dynamics 365. That is Raz's deal, that one.
Oh, yeah.
But I think he kind of got the word out a little too late. Yep, there you go. Summit.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? And then the following week, of course, we're in Seattle.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I mean, they were projecting a while ago like 7,000 attendees. So that's 7,000 new virus carriers to be spread around the world.
Listen, let's just play out a scenario here. Let's say you went to Barcelona, which you're planning for next week, Friday, I think. I'm flying up there. You're flying up there, flying across there. Is there any risk that the US government might start blacklisting and therefore quarantine any US citizens returning home or something?
I'm not sure. I haven't followed it closely. I know they definitely did China, right? They're not accepting any flights from China. I had heard that other areas that they were for U.S. citizens would bring you back, but you had to sit in a 2-week quarantine or something.
Yeah.
Before you could do anything if you were from, and I don't know how they're targeting the countries or what that country list looks like. But yeah, that's a potential risk is, you're in Barcelona and all of a sudden something happens and the U.S. decides, okay, you're all quarantined now.
Yeah. That means no MVP summit for you, mate.
That would mean no MVP summit for either of us.
I'm not an American citizen.
Yeah, so you probably wouldn't even be able to get in the fucking country.
Valid.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they're going to give me better treatment than they would you on letting us in. If they're going to make me sit in quarantine, they're probably not even going to let you in the fucking door.
Valid. There's I see Italy's gone a bit nuts with the virus, and so is Iran. 50 something.
Yeah, that was just over the weekend, right?
Yeah. Italy scrambles to contain coronavirus.
Yeah. And, once that thing hits Europe, well, now that it's hit Europe, Europe is.
There's no borders, right? There's no enforced borders. You can just drive, go anywhere.
Yeah. What was I reading somewhere about? Was it one of the Nordic countries tried to close their borders and ended up having to open them back up? But,
breaches conventions and stuff, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, now that it's in Italy, well, come on, it's obviously it's not stopping there. I wouldn't think, they gotta get this thing contained somehow. Got to get it contained.
Interesting. I might have to look up Leon Tribe's Facebook page because he often does his reporting analysis on its growth, spread, and or otherwise, or not growth, as in when it should be finishing. But it's interesting.
Viruses? Really? I didn't know that he did that.
Yeah, he's been doing a whole analysis, statistical analysis of the probability of its spread, where it'll spread, at which point it'll die out.
Of just this one, or
just this one? Yeah, specifically this one. He's basically downloading data sets from various organizations.
Interesting.
John Hopkins, I'm pretty sure he downloaded data sets from US data. He had stuff from World Health Organization, I think, and a whole range.
Yeah, I would assume then, he's probably doing it to show the, Power BI capabilities and some other stuff like that, right?
Oh, no, he's just doing it in Excel by the looks. I like nothing fancy. This is just his personal thing on the side, kind of showing where things are at.
Where the hell is it? I'm looking at his blog spot. I guess that's.
No, it's on his Facebook page. He's doing it.
Oh, on Facebook, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Oh, look at this. Britons returning from northern Italy, which is basically Milan, are told to self-isolate.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's been a whole bunch of it up there. Full towns are in quarantine.
In Britain?
No, as in around Milan,
Oh, yeah.
Lombardia, and Veneto, which is just where Venice is, or the province Venice is in. Crazy,
Oh, yeah.
crazy.
So here's Leon, that the Middle East is lighting up like a Christmas tree, with Oman, Afghanistan, Bahrain, and Kuwait getting their first cases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I thought it was contained about a week ago, and I thought this would be nothing but old news by this week. My flight goes through Singapore. I wonder if I should change that.
Yeah, you might want to go the other way around the world. Just go the opposite direction.
So true.
Oh, hey, we're out of time.
All right, we're on time. Thanks everybody for joining us this week. Same time next week, and we'll see about the week after, wherever we might be in the world. Ciao, ciao.